Okay, I think I'm live. Facebook has done it again. Facebook has done it again. They changed their format. In fact, the thing is still spinning, so I don't even know yet if you're here. Or, for that matter, I don't even know yet if I'm here. I know that I'm here in Life's Work Yoga Studio. This is the library, the coaching room and consultation room upstairs at the studio. And I'm coming to you today to confess a little bit, because I hear it a lot from clients and students over the years who think that I've got my life all together. Yeah, I have dedicated the last couple of decades to practicing intentional self-care, to the point that today it's what I do, from the coaching, from the yoga practice, from the yoga therapy body work, to even the volunteering that I do in my community, is all built around this practice of intentional self-care. And that stems from not only years of practice, but a dedicated foundation based in modern research. Right? It took modern research. It took tested and proven practices from a scientific test point to penetrate this thick skull, to embrace the practices of self-care. Now, in a nutshell, I teach 10 practices of self-care, which, to be honest, I have adapted a little bit to see them all from the lens of yoga. But fundamentally, yoga, it's all yoga. Yoga covers the gamut in terms of what it includes, because yoga is a way of being. It's a way of living. That's why I call my signature program of learning how to live these principles and practices yoga living. It is not just about asana and pranayama, breathing and moving. It's also about having an intention, a mindset of choosing how we engage in living. Because if you take the next step about what yoga is, beyond the movement and the breathing, yoga is about accepting personal responsibility for doing the things that help us live, and in my opinion, choosing those things that help us live well, live better. For me, that means live vibrantly and live in alignment. Now, the alignment part of that is because I know that when I'm in alignment, meaning there is an agreement between my head and my heart, between my body and my mind, that when I live in alignment, life is more easeful. That doesn't mean that life is easy and that I don't have any challenges or problems or obstacles. Contrary, completely not true. However, what it means to live easefully is that in this practice, I call it transparent alignment. That's the philosophy that I have cultivated and tweaked and adapted based on the research that I've done of modern psychology and sociology and even metaphysics and philosophy, as well as the ancient teachings derived from Buddhism and from yoga and from a broad spectrum of humanities. So transparent alignment is the practice of allowing myself to be a work in progress, a work in process. So, yeah, I practice self-care. I practice intentional self-care. And my studio, Life's Work Yoga, and my service to the world is to carve out that tender space. My hope is that it's a safe space for you to arrive in physically if you come to the studio, or energetically and emotionally if we meet virtually, or we meet even asynchronously, meaning you're watching a video after the live broadcast. The point is that when we can cultivate a calm, abiding, safe place, the words of Stephen Cope, then we can start to peel back the layers, the armor that has protected us, the armor that we have at some stage in our life needed to feel safe. Just like I put on a winter coat in the winter time, if I was to wear a winter coat in the summertime, you might wonder what's up with her, right? That wearing armor when it's no longer needed is a detriment to us showing up authentically, showing up to be seen, showing up in a way that we can be present with what is. So, what does all this mean? In terms of self-care, this has been, I kid you not, a daily practice of rewiring my brain, having to relearn how to use my body, and specifically a commitment to integrating an alignment, an intimacy with breath itself, meaning not just this inhale and the exhale, but also the prana, the life force that makes life itself possible. Now, we could talk about what is prana, what is life force, what is spirit from now until the end of time. And I actually invite that conversation. It's a conversation that I think will continue to enliven and enrich my life. But there's also the practice of doing the best that I can in agreement with these 10 practices that I alluded to. Not the simplest of which is to learn how to be in my body, to relearn how to listen to the language, the words, and the dialogue that my body communicates. And some days, honestly, I tune that volume down. Let me give you an example. I still struggle with overproduction, of overworking, of getting into a focused state of doing the things, in which case I tune out what my body is asking for. Things like going to the bathroom or drinking, that's a big one, or even eating a meal to sustain my energy. Now, with that said, one of the ways in which I practice self-care is by asking for help, by inviting others to help hold me to the path. And that's really the biggest strategy or secret that I would share with you, is that we're not meant to do this journey alone. The irony, of course, is that we are individually responsible for doing our practice. But that individual responsibility does not prohibit us from asking for help. In fact, it's often the help that we don't yet know that we need that might redirect or shift us to stay on the path or to find our way back to the path. Who are the teachers, the resources, the community support, your partners, your friends, your family, who help hold you to be your best self? And can you see those relationships not as burdens or obligations, but as invitations for authenticity and opportunities for practicing being even more in alignment, transparently being seen, so that when you wander, you have an accountability to help come back to the path. Life has thrown me a couple of curveballs over the years, right? Truth is, I had my first anxiety breakdown that was recognized by my teachers and my community when I was in high school. In fact, I was literally prescribed from 3 different mentors, 3 different superiors from my school, from my church, and even from the volunteer organization that I was a part of, to take a vacation, to skip school and rest. Now, I did learn a little bit about what was meant there, but not enough to actually change the way in which I was living. I got a reset, but I didn't have a relearning at that point in my life. I was 17, 18 years old. So I continued those same habits of overcommitting and over-involving and working myself to a high standard of production, which, don't get me wrong, it has served me well. I've been able to accomplish a lot of things in terms of academics, in terms of my relationships, my life commitments. I have a beautiful life that I have worked hard to achieve. Please do not hear that I am saying that I wasn't advantaged or privileged or had opportunities that were supported by those who came before. That's not at all what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that I worked hard and was able to produce results that were in line with what I thought I wanted. But the real crux that kind of gave me the space that I needed to relearn was the accident that I had in 2008, a bicycle accident that really put me out of commission of living for about a year plus. And it was in that recovery season that I was introduced to yoga. But it wasn't until I started to dive deeper into the practices, the intimacy practices with inspiration, meaning pranayama, meaning meditation, and owning this relationship with my body, not just as a tool to use and abuse to get me where I wanted to go, but a vehicle that was integral to my way of being. And hence, I started to shift from a practice of exercising and working out into a practice of how do I care for this body, this spirit, so that I can do two things. Self-care is really two sides of the same coin. One is a reaction, a way of refueling after doing work, after doing labor, after being exhausted, fatigued, tired, overwhelmed, right? But it's also the preventative strategy. And that's where the intentionality comes in, is that when we have an intentional self-care practice, we are able to deepen our resolve, deepen our tolerance for stress, so that when we do have to push that extra edge, we're not working from an edge to a new threat level, but we're working from our foundation and being pushed to the edge when we are truly needing to perform at a higher level. Then we give ourselves permission to back off and recover. This is not a concept that's unique to me. This is called the anti-fragility model. And I translated it over from the world of math and physics to apply to how we experience our postures, our breathing, even life itself, choosing when we go to the edge, because we know we're going to practice coming off of the edge to recover and restore. So in a nutshell, I am a work in progress. And we all are. This is not unique to me. We are all, even as we come to a point of mastery, of excellence in our practice, in our dharma of doing our life. As long as we are committed to the journey, we are always a work in progress, and things are going to shift and change. That is why the practice of showing up is so key. Not about phoning it in and using the same stories or using the same references or sticking to perhaps a rule that I have created for myself. Boundaries are meant to be negotiated, as is our practice of self-care. It will ebb and flow, but the commitment, the intentionality is where we can really cultivate the tapas, the discipline, when we, one, take personal responsibility, and two, enlist support from our circle, from a coach, from our parents, from our family, from our siblings, from our children even, whoever it is that has that kind of backdoor entrance into your heart space, your truth center, and can hold you accountable to your own best intentions. What's your self-care practice look like? And if you need a little support, maybe you and I can do some work together. Maybe you and I can embark on this journey of intentional self-care to meet you where you're at and help you live in greater alignment and greater ease. To help you live this breathing deeply, moving freely, laboring lovingly, and ultimately living vibrantly. This is the blessing of life's work yoga, and this is the intention of my life's work, of my dharma. Thanks so much for joining me here at Storytime, and I look forward to hearing from you about where your obstacles in your self-care routine and where your successes and your achievements help to keep you on the path of knowing that we're all imperfectly perfect in our pursuit of living mindfully and living yoga as a way to improve our transparency, our authenticity, and ultimately our celebration of life itself and love for all. Be well. Namaste.